Hey folks, I'm Melhorn, and today we're going to talk about staying warm when you're out there fishing in extremely cold weather. Alright folks, the one magic trick to staying warm when it's cold is to have on a warm hat. A beanie like this really helps stay warm when you're out there on the water. The other magic trick is to have something around your neck. These masks work really good in the summertime to protect you from the sun, but they're also very effective in the wintertime for keeping the wind off of your face and adding that extra layer of warmth. Even though it's kind of hard to talk in them. You've probably heard it since you were a kid. You got to keep your head warm, you got to keep your hands warm, and you got to keep your feet warm. I like to keep my hands warm. It's probably the toughest part when you're out on the water, but you're going to need some good gloves to do it. I got these. They're insulated. They're Gore-Tex. They're great for keeping the wind off my hands. And I'll tell you a trick I do when I'm out on the water. I carry 2 pairs of gloves, both of them waterproof. I've got one pair that I wear when I'm pulling in anchor ropes, pulling in drift socks, dealing with anything that's wet where my hands are going to get wet. Try to keep them as dry as possible. Now those gloves will get wet on the outside. They'll get soaked. And when it's really cold, they'll really start to freeze up solid. The bad part about that is that you start to get that ice build up, and while your hands are dry, they're still surrounded by ice, and it's still really, really cold, but at least your hands stay dry. That's why I keep a second pair, this pair, that I keep dry the whole time. I don't pick up anything wet with it unless absolutely necessary. They don't get soaked. I use these for running up and down the lake, sitting around on the boat, just something to keep the wind off my hands, and they stay dry. So having 2 pairs of gloves, and if you can afford it, get 2 pairs of waterproof gloves. It will really, really help you keep your hands warm, because that's some of the toughest part, especially when the wind's blowing. If your hands get wet, the wind's blowing, it just really makes it unbearable. One more thing, folks, to keep your hands warm, hot hands. You gotta have them when it's really cold. Crack open a pack, maybe 2 packs. I buy these things by the case. Walmart sells them in the winter. You can get an entire case of them. Put a couple in each of my pants pockets, maybe in my jacket pocket. They're really great when your hands get wet, when you're dealing with anchors, dealing with fish. You can put your hands back in there, get them warm. It's really old science in these things. It's, I think, a couple of metals that come together, and when they mix with air, they heat up, and it's basically a chemical process that takes place. Old technology that's helping us today. Put some hot hands on your boat this winter. We got our head, we got our hands, now we got to do our feet. I like wool socks. It's a great way to start. Before I put those on, get you some of these liners, these little silk liners here that wick some of the moisture away from your feet. If you can keep your feet dry, it's a big help in keeping them warm, and these wool socks are a great start. The next thing is a good pair of insulated boots. I've got these mucks that I wear. They're kind of big, bulky. These are not the warmest ones they make, though. They actually make an Arctic series that is really, really warm. I stay pretty warm. I'm not, these work great for me, but if your feet are really sensitive, you're really sensitive to the cold, look up the muck Arctic version that they've got, and those are a great boot to go with. A lot of your hunting boots too. You guys that deer hunt, sit in cold deer stands, those things will work great. Just remember, they're not that comfortable for moving and shuffling around in the boat, especially the bigger pack heavy boots, but you got to keep your feet warm, because there's nothing more miserable than being out there on the boat fishing and your feet are freezing. Alright folks, I do my cold weather fishing gear a little different than most people. A lot of people like to wear a big heavy jacket, hunting type one-piece suit. I do mine a little differently, and I'm going to go over some of the steps that I go through when I'm getting dressed to be out there in some extremely cold weather. The fleece underwear is the base that I start with, top and bottom. That's your fundamental base. That's what's really the first step in holding the heat close to your body. Basically, the more you spend, the better off you are to a certain extent. I got these. This was a brand that who knows, really makes them. It's got the Rocky name on it. I got them at Walmart probably 10 or 15 years ago. I got a few pairs of them. I think it cost me 25 bucks for the set. I've also got a set of Under Armour. That was a lot more money, like 75 bucks. Tell the truth, I can't tell a difference between the two. They both fit real well. They're both very warm, but I think sometimes you get this heavyweight fleece, I think you can get by spending a little less and get the same effectiveness. The next layer, and this is where I think a lot of people go wrong, is they just throw on a pair of pants or a pair of blue jeans. I don't waste any insulation on the next layer. I've got a pair of these Wolverine work pants is what I wear. They're not just work pants, they're fleece lined also. They make these in jeans. A couple different people make them. I found these somewhere. They're kind of heavy. They're bulkier than a pair of jeans, but they're extremely warm. They add a layer of insulation. I think every piece of clothing you put on needs to have some type of value to it, not just something to cover up in when you're out there in extreme cold. I think a pair of jeans is a wasted layer. I think if you're going to be out there in extreme cold, you need some fleece-lined jeans, fleece-lined pants of some kind to add that extra layer of insulation. Now, my upper body, I skimp a little bit. I've got on one of these Dieter Melhorn fishing hoodies. It works just fine. It's not super insulated, but I'm able to cheat on my upper body a little bit with some old technology that is still very effective for staying warm. As a matter of fact, I could probably get by out on a boat with just this on and maybe a t-shirt and be absolutely warm in temperatures down into the teens and 20s. Now you're asking yourself, what the heck are you talking about? Is this some kind of, new magic thing out there? It's really nothing more than a 700 weight goose down jacket. Any of you guys that duck hunt probably wear these. I found this one on sale, on clearance somewhere for like 40 bucks. It's a Browning goose down jacket, and it is the warmest thing that I've ever worn. I ended up getting another North Face down jacket that I found on sale a couple of years later. I actually wore it to Canada deer hunting, and the amount of warmth you get off of these things is absolutely amazing. They're lightweight. The one downside is they're a little bit bulky, but they're extremely warm, and they're well worth having on the boat. And the other thing is you can pack them up into something about the size of a softball. They're very packable and stowable. The one downside is you don't want to get them wet. They're not designed to work effectively when they're wet. So you need a good outer shell on to protect from the wind, the rain, and the snow. Now, if you watch any of my winter fishing videos, you'll see me with this jacket on right here. This is a outer covering. It's made by Frog Togs, and some people ask, hey, is that thing warm? I'll be honest with you, no, it's not. It's nothing but a bare shell. It's nothing but a waterproof shell. It's got some zippered pockets on it in some great places. I've got the bib bottoms and this jacket for the top. I wear this as my outer layer, not so much for rain, but just to keep the wind off of me. This is my outer shell. This is the part that protects me from the wind. You cut the wind off of you, that's half the battle most of these days when you're out there in the winter. Folks, the last thing, bring you a thermos or a big mug full of warm coffee. It's nice to add that little bit of heat to the inner core of your body. No matter what you do when it's really cold, really frigid outside and really windy, your body temperature is going to start to drop a little bit. Adding some heat to the central core of it will really help you out and make those days a lot more tolerable out there. Hopefully these tips will help keep you warm while you're out there on the water this winter. Be safe, and we look forward to seeing you out there.